Hey there, Brighton High School Bulldogs, Miss Dillon here. I promised you guys that I was going to do First Read Fridays. So what First Read Fridays are is I present a book every Friday that I love, or maybe one that you suggested, and I read the first chapter of it to kind of get you interested in it, hopefully. I find that a lot of people just don't know about how many great books are out there. And so this is kind of my way of sharing my love for books and also giving you some books that I really have loved to read. So the first book I'm going to share with you tonight is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. This is an awesome book, and if you've noticed on the website as well, I gave you the book jacket. I typed up the back of the book, sort of the summary of the book, and then I found this really cool book trailer that some high school students did that I wanted to share with you because I wanted you guys to be inspired by people that are your age, all right? So, that being said, let's begin. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. Chapter 1, The Black Eye of the Month Club. I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so that's not exactly true. I was actually born with too much cerebral spinal fluid inside my skull. But cerebral spinal fluid is just the doctor's fancy way of saying brain grease. And brain grease works inside the lobes like car grease works inside an engine. It keeps things running smooth and fast. But weirdo me, I was born with too much grease inside my skull, and it got all thick and muddy and disgusting, and it only mucked up the works. My thinking and breathing and living engine slowed down and flooded. My brain was drowning in grease. But that makes the whole thing sound weirdo funny, like my brain was a giant French fry, so it seemed more serious and poetic and accurate to say, I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so maybe that's not a very serious way to say it either, but, well, maybe the whole thing is weird and funny. But geez, did my mother and father and big sister and grandma and cousins and aunts and uncles think it was funny when the doctors cut open my little skull and sucked out all the extra water with some tiny vacuum? I was only 6 months old, and I was supposed to croak during surgery, and even if I somehow survived the mini Hoover, I was supposed to suffer serious brain damage during the procedure and live the rest of my life as a vegetable. Well, I obviously survived the surgery. I wouldn't be writing this if I didn't, but I have all sorts of physical problems that are directly the result of my brain damage. First of all, I ended up having 42 teeth. The typical human has 32, right? But I had 42. 10 more than usual, 10 more than normal, 10 teeth past human. My teeth got so crowded that I could barely close my mouth. I went to Indian Health Service to get some teeth pulled so I could eat normally, not like some slobbering vulture. But the Indian Health Service funded major dental work only once a year. So I had to have all 10 extra teeth pulled in one day. And what's more, our white dentist believed that Indians only felt half as much pain as white people did, so he only gave us half the Novocaine. What a bastard, huh? Indian Health Service also funded eyeglass purchases only once a year and offered only one style, those ugly, thick, black plastic ones. My brain damage left me nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other, so my ugly glasses were all lopsided because my eyes were so lopsided. I get headaches because my eyes are like enemies, like they used to be married to each other but now hate each other's guts. And I started wearing glasses when I was 3, so I ran around the res looking like a 3-year-old Indian grandpa. And, I was skinny. I turned sideways and disappear. But my hands and feet were huge. My feet were a size 11 in 3rd grade. With my big feet and pencil body, I looked like a capital L walking down the road. And my skull was enormous, epic. My head was so big that little Indian skulls orbited around it. Some of the kids called me Orbit, and other kids just called me Globe. The bullies would pick on me, spin me in circles, put their finger down on my skull and say, I want to go there. So obviously I looked goofy on the outside, but it was the inside stuff that was the worst. First of all, I had seizures, at least 2 a week. So I was damaging my brain on a regular basis. But the thing is, I was having those seizures because I already had brain damage. So I was reopening wounds each time I seized. Yep, whenever I had a seizure, I was damaging my damage. I haven't had a seizure in 7 years, but the doctors tell me that I am susceptible to seizure activity. Susceptible to seizure activity. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue like poetry? I also had a stutter with a lisp, or maybe I should say I had a stutter and a lisp. You wouldn't think there's anything life-threatening about speech impediments, but let me tell you, there is nothing more dangerous than being a kid with a stutter and a lisp. A 5-year-old is cute when he lisps and stutters. Heck, most of the big-time kid actors stuttered and lisped their way to stardom. And geez, you're still fairly cute when you're stuttering and lisping 6, 7, and 8 years old. But it's all over when you turn 9 and 10. After that, your stutter and lisp turn you into a retard. And by the way, I just want to say, let's never use that word. Retard is bad, but it is repeated in here a few times. And that's because it is in the book. Otherwise, I would not say it. And if you're 14 years old like me, and you're still stuttering and lisping, then you become the biggest retard in the world. Everybody on the res calls me a retard about twice a day. They call me retard when they are pantsing me, or stuffing my head in the toilet, or just smacking me upside the head. I'm not even writing down the story the way I actually talk, because I have to fill it with stutters and lisps, and then you'd be wondering why you're reading a story written by such a retard. Do you know what happens to retards on the res? We get beat up, at least once a month. Yep, I belong to the Black Eye of the Month Club. Sure, I want to go outside. Every kid wants to go outside, but it's safer to stay at home. So I mostly hang out alone in my bedroom and read books and draw cartoons. I draw all of the time. I draw cartoons of my mother and father, my sister, my grandmother, my best friend Rowdy, and everybody else on the res. I draw because words are too unpredictable. I draw because words are too limited. If you speak and write English or Spanish or Chinese or any other language, then only a certain percentage of human beings will get your meaning. But when you draw a picture, everybody can understand it. If I draw a cartoon of a flower, then every man, woman, and child in the world can look at it and say, that's a flower. And here is a picture that he drew of himself. So I draw because I want to talk to the world, and I want the world to pay attention to me. I feel important with a pen in my hand. I feel like I might grow up to be somebody important, an artist, maybe a famous artist, maybe a rich artist. That's the only way I can become rich and famous. Just take a look at the world. Almost all of the rich and famous people are brown people. Almost all of the rich and famous brown people are artists. They're singers and actors and writers and dancers and directors and poets. So I draw because I feel like it might be my only real chance to escape the reservation. I think the world is a series of broken dams and floods, and my cartoons are tiny little lifeboats. That is another picture. So I hope you enjoyed this first chapter Friday. Definitely recommend this book. All right, if you have any questions, I'm always here for you. Have a great weekend, guys.